Wiedersehen Pet Television Review. This episode is called Home Thoughts from Abroad, and this episode starts off with Oz starting an argument with some of the German workers, and Barry is brought in by Oz and the rest of the guys to explain the phrase Jerry built. And it's around this time that Bomber gets a telephone call from his wife saying that their daughter Tracy has gone missing. It was the initial plan of a few of the lads to go out to an Indian restaurant for the night, but unfortunately Bomber and Neville, both with their thoughts of home, are preoccupied. And with everyone else out of the hut, Bomber and Neville start discussing about, what's happening at home with their loved ones, particularly with Bomber's news. Bomber tells Neville about his daughter going missing, and and Neville explains to Bomber how he's trying to save as much money as he possibly can because Brenda needs as much money as she can possibly get from him over in Germany. The next morning, Moxie and Barry have come up with an idea to create a herb garden. And because Neville isn't going out, it's annoying Oz, because he thinks Neville is trying to distance himself from the rest of the lads, and he wants to know why. It's also that Bomber flies back to Bristol to comfort his wife and try and find out what his daughter's up to. So, over the next day, Dennis and the rest of the guys are trying to cover for Bomber. Let's say that he's ill, so he'll still get a little bit of pay. Then Wayne's walking over to the office, and he notices a very attractive young girl standing at the gates, and he goes to talk to her. And Wayne starts trying to chat her up, and then he realises who it is. It's Bomber's daughter Tracy. She's come to try and find Bomber to spend a little bit of time with her dad. Obviously, Bomber back in England. So, Wayne says, stay here, and he tells the rest of the lads, particularly Dennis. And at lunchtime, they all go over to a pub that's very close to the building site. After having lunch with Tracy, they sneak her onto the building site and sneak her into their hut. Then, after they've done this, Dennis spreads the words around all the lads from the hut, saying, remember, there's a lady sleeping there tonight. Do not do anything rude, don't fart, don't swear, don't get changed, only when the lads are around, don't do it when she's in. It's all having to try and be polite. And then Dennis gets on the telephone to Bomber to say, she's in Dusseldorf, we'll look after her until you get back. Bomber and his wife are relieved, to say the least. So, Bomber then decides to get back on a plane, fly back to Dusseldorf. And the next day, obviously, before Bomber arrives, they're trying to keep the foreman of the site noticing that anything weird about the hut and their behaviour. Finally, that evening, Bomber arrives home to much celebrations and happiness that his daughter is safe. And Bomber says, well, look, I've got enough money to put you in a hotel for tonight. Then in the morning, you'll be getting on a plane back to Bristol. They're all like, well, why don't we celebrate? Why don't we go out and have a meal somewhere? Fair enough, why not? Lovely. And Moxie and Barry suggest the Indian restaurant from earlier on. And they all say, yeah, why not? And they're going to sit down on a table, and who would come and serve them but Neville? And this is the end of the episode. I'm going to give this episode of Wiedersehen Pet Home Thoughts from Abroad a number 2. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall see you next week. Goodbye.